Hey guys, what's going on? It's Andy Elliott. In this video, my man Sean Crane right here is going to tell a crazy freaking story, guys. He went to jail. Listen, crazy, crazy story. His comeback is insane. So if you're an underdog, you're not going to want to miss this. It'll change your life.
They stabbed the hell out of him, and he almost died on that night. He was in a coma. They did the defibrillators on him. And so, I stood up from that altercation, and I was covered in blood. I was covered in blood, and the one friend I went to that party with looked at me under lights like this, and he could just see the blood illuminated on my shirt, my face. And he goes, "Man, what the hell, Sean? What'd you do? You're covered in blood."
All right, guys, here we are, Andy Elliott. I'm with my man Sean Crane. Guys, I'm going to tell you, life is good. Holy cow, it's 2023 at the time we're making this. Damn, you can have whatever you want. Don't ever let anyone in this world tell you you can't. I don't care what you did. I don't care who you burned. I don't care who burned you. I don't care if you're unworthy. I don't care what people say about you. Today is going to be the great reset, okay? And what I love to hear, I don't want to hear where Sean Crane's at today, how much money does he make, how big his Range Rover business is. I don't care about any of that. I want to know today, Sean, how did you get to where you are today? When you were at your lowest point in time in your life, I want him to tell us who you are. But secondly, dude, like give us your story and then how you went through it. What kind of mindset? If you can take the way that someone thinks and steal it, you're dangerous. And this guy's going to tell you today how he was thinking and how you can totally transform your life today and alter your identity and become the person you always wanted to be, man or woman, and for your family. So, Sean, tell us about yourself, and let's just get into this power story and tell us about yourself.
Let's go.
I'm excited, buddy.
Me
Let's
too.
go.
First of all, thank you for having me here. Love you, man. Love your energy, your passion.
Love you.
Everything.
We're brothers.
So literally my life changed the moment I made a decision. Now that sounds corny, but that was 10 years ago. So I made a decision, but I've backed it up with action ever since, and I've never
Where
faltered.
were you when you made this
I was
decision?
in county jail facing life in prison. So growing up, I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, which is a beautiful beach community north of LA. As a kid, I had everything. I grew up playing football in the street, surfing, going to the beach, friends, family. I thought I had a typical American life, like a good life. I had cousins, friends around. But then at the age of about 10 and 11, I started noticing my parents were battling addiction. And they weren't the same as my aunts and uncles or the other kids' parents. I'd see my mom overdose 2, 3 times on the floor, dying in front of me as a little kid. I'd see my mom and dad fight. The cops would come to our house. So very quickly, I went from this beautiful life where anything was possible to living in this really gloomy, dark existence where I was scared all the time. I was nervous that something was going to happen. And then at the age of 14, it did. My dad got in a standoff with the cops. He had a pistol, and I thought he was going to get killed right in front of us, in front of our house. But he didn't. They arrested him and sent him to prison. And then right after that, my mom's drug habit took hold of her, and she literally left us. So I was abandoned by both my parents at the age of 14, and I was still really young at that time.
14 is young. That's
very
crazy.
immature. As like you hear the word 14, you think, oh, that's a young man. But no, I was still trying to figure out who I was as a person. I didn't have a leader. I didn't have an example. Thank God my Uncle Mike stepped in and raised me and my siblings, and he's the most selfless human being I've ever known. Nothing but love and positivity. But I didn't have my dad around. And so I started hanging around all these kids who were getting in trouble. I started using drugs and drinking with them because it numbed out my pain. I stopped going to school. I never played sports. Growing up, I was an athlete. I wanted to be a professional athlete. Never stepped foot on a field or a court in high school. Nothing. And I just existed. From 14 to 24, I was going through the motions of life. I saw people die. I saw people go to jail. I was on that path of self-destruction. And then what I believe was divine intervention took place in a way that you would not want to have happen. Like no one would wish this upon them, but it changed my life forever. I was at a party and a fight broke out, and it was a bunch of college kids just drinking. And you see those fights happen all the time. You go to a party, everyone's drinking. At the end of the night, someone's going to fight, right? And I was right there watching it. And the fight broke out, and all of a sudden I got pulled into this melee. I got tackled, and I thought I was getting jumped by the guys who were fighting. And so I'm wrestling around with this guy, and as I get up, I threw a couple punches at him, and that's what everyone at the party saw. They saw me wrestling around with some guy and throwing a couple punches towards him as I stood up. I didn't know that guy had been stabbed, Andy. They stabbed the hell out of him, and he almost died on that night. He was in a coma. They did the defibrillators on him. And so, I stood up from that altercation, and I was covered in blood. I was covered in blood, and the one friend I went to that party with looked at me under lights like this, and he could just see the blood illuminated on my shirt, my face. And he goes, "Man, what the hell, Sean? What'd you do? You're covered in blood." And everyone at the party, no one saw the initial attack. They saw me getting up off the ground, covered in blood, and then everyone running. So the next day, the cops came with AR-15s, literally pointed them at my face, and arrested me for attempted murder. And in that moment, I thought my life was over. I thought I was done. You know, you don't hear people coming back from that. And I remember, man, just sitting in my cell for days on end, 24-hour lockdown, with nothing but time to think and time to reflect. And now I'm getting sober, and now I'm seeing the truth about my life and who I become. And what I felt was the worst pain I'd ever known. It was regret. Because inside of me, I had this version of who I knew I could be, like this person that I felt like I was born to become. But I had never lived as that guy. No one ever got to meet him because I chose the other path in life. I chose excuses. I said, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll change later. And meanwhile, I was just going further down this path of mediocrity, negativity, probably death, right? And so in that moment, man, the pain was so horrific. I sat in that pain for a couple weeks just trying to wrestle with these thoughts and this realization that I had just wasted my life and I was never going to get to go back and do it again. And in that moment, I realized that I was either going to perish in that cell or I had to find a way to persevere. I had to fight.
How old are you now?
I'm 34 now.
Yeah, how old was you at this time?
23.
Okay.
And so in that moment, I just made a promise to myself. Like, it was a commitment that no matter what happens, no matter how much time they send me to prison for, if I get out in a week, a year, 10 or 20 years, I just have to be my real self. Like, I can't hold back anymore. And to people listening to this, it might sound crazy because they're going to say, well, what could you do in a jail cell? But it was something here and here. It was like a commitment to myself, you know? And so I made that promise to myself that I was never again going to choose that other path, that I was going to be the person I knew I was supposed to be for the rest of my life. And in that moment, I didn't know how much time I was going to do in prison. So every day I just started getting up and doing what I could do within my control to better myself. I literally remember I woke up one day and my feet hit that cold cement floor and I just thought, well, what can I do? Like, I can't change the opinions of the DA, the judge. I can't, change the opinion of all the people telling on me for something I didn't do. But what can I do right now? And it was survival, man, because you think about like having a negative mindset or negative self-talk. Imagine how that's magnified when you're in a 6x8 cell facing life in prison. Like all the fears, all the anxiety, all the doubt, worst case scenarios, or all the things I didn't do in the past, all the things I regret, all my depression, right? It was just like eating away at me. And I realized I had to figure out how to train this. That was the greatest threat I was facing. And so what I started doing, the first thing before I started taking action, was changing the questions I asked myself and changing the way I talked to myself. So instead of waking up saying, God, I can't believe I wasted my life. Like, I can't believe I chose to use drugs and I didn't go to school and I didn't try. Like, why'd I be that person? Or instead of waking up thinking, man, they're going to send me to prison for 30, 40 years. They're trying to send me to prison for life. I'm never going to have a family of my own. I'm never going to get out and get another chance to go to the beach or see my loved ones. Like, it's over. It's done. And so when I was thinking that way, I had no hope. And I remember I just realized I had to start finding a way to block out these thoughts. And so I started asking myself, well, Sean, what if you needed to come to jail? Like, what if you needed to come to jail to get sober? What if you were going to die in a couple years or just live a horrible existence struggling with drug and alcohol addiction? What if you needed to come to jail to get away from your toxic relationships and really discover who you are and be that man? Or what if God has a plan for you and you can't see it, but this is divine intervention and somehow, some way things are going to be okay? And I chose to start believing in that, Andy. It gave me a little bit of hope, whereas previously I was hopeless. It gave me like a thread of hope that I could cling to each and every day. And so that's when I started, finding the ability within me to take action. And all I started doing was working out, reading, and writing every single day. Working out, reading, and writing every single day. I just wanted to sharpen myself somehow, some way. And exercise is by far the most powerful habit we can form. You know that, for your mind, for your body, for your spirit. And I was getting these endorphin rushes from my exercise. And when I'd be doing burpees and pushing myself in the cell, suddenly I'd elevate above the fear, above the doubt. And I had a little bit of hope, right? I was like, man, maybe somehow, some way things could get better. And so every day I was using exercise as a catalyst. And then I started attacking my weaknesses too. This was the first time I was willing to admit that like I wasn't good at stuff or like really face my truth, And the way this happened was I was writing letters back home and my dad wrote me a letter back. We were having a correspondence. And he goes, man, you misspelled all these words. I couldn't even read your writing. Like, he's kind of like, getting on me about it. And so I started asking my cellmate, how do you spell this word? How do you spell that word? I wanted to improve my writing. I had made that promise, like I'm going to be the best version of myself, right? And so one day my cellmate had this little pocket dictionary and he threw it at me and it hit me in the shoulder. And he's like, look it up. And this is this big guy, shaved head, tattoos. And the way he did it, I was kind of pissed, But in my head, I thought, okay, watch this. Like, watch this. It was a personal challenge. So I literally would pick up that little pocket dictionary, man, and look up every word I didn't know how to spell. When I was reading books on my rack later in that day, I'd come across a word I didn't know the definition of. I'd write them down. I started keeping a vocab list in jail, and I'd start memorizing those words. And in a very short period of time, I felt my memory, my speed of thought, my mind come alive like never before. Here's why this is so important. Before that moment, I thought I lacked intelligence. I knew I was athletic, good in social settings. I liked to talk and socialize with people, but I just thought I didn't have intelligence. I never applied myself. And to a lot of people, this may sound trivial, but it was the first time in years I was willing to face like a weakness, and attack it head on. And
You started to own your shit.
I owned my shit, and I realized, man, I got out of my comfort zone, and I realized, wow, I'm not permanent and concrete. I'm not this way forever. I can change. And it just completely blew my perspective as to what was possible for me. It was that moment right there that I realized there were no limitations in life. And it didn't matter that I was stuck in a small little cell. It was what was taking place here and here that completely revolutionized the way I think, feel, and live my life ever since.
So how long did you go to jail for? When did you get out?
So I got out 5 years ago. I went to jail for 5.5 years. I got out right before I turned the age of 30. And so during that time, I continued to build upon those daily habits. My workouts every day, discipline, building confidence, building certainty and belief in myself through action. And then when I got to prison, they had college correspondence programs there. So because I picked up that little dictionary and proved to myself, man, with effort, I can improve. I enrolled in college, and I got 4 associate's degrees during that time. They gave me 6 months off my sentence. So all these things, you talk about the compounding effect. That's when it started for me. And then other guys in jail started noticing me, and they started asking me for advice. They started wanting to work out with me. They started asking what books I was reading.
Started to become a leader.
They noticed I was different than everyone else in there. And so I started working with these guys, and over the course of 6 months, I started seeing them change their mindset, their habits, their perspective. They were taking college courses with me. They were running out on the yard with me. We were working out. And I realized, man, this is what I'm meant to do. Like, I love to share and give back to others in need and show them the changes I was making so they can make them in their lives. And I knew, man, when I come home, I'm going to serve and help people. I want to coach. I'm a leader, man. This is what I'm born to do. So when I came home, my first opportunity to do so was working as a personal trainer. And so I took it, and I was working under somebody else, and I was getting paid like no money, but I was so excited to be pursuing my vision. I didn't care about the money. I was working with people. I was helping people.
And you were free. And I want to say this. I know how many of you guys right now, like, you're free, but you're in a prison because your mind is owned by this world. The best thing that this guy said was that you don't want this to happen, but I'm glad it happened. He went to jail. It actually gave him an opportunity to look in the mirror, own his shit, take control of his mind, and then he got out, took a nothing job that would lead to his beautiful life he has today. Now, you guys don't need to go to jail, and he doesn't want you to go to jail. But what he does want you to understand is that you do have control of your life. You do. Don't ever let anybody convince you that you don't. And even though that his dad was a crazy guy and his mom was a drug addict and all the people he hung out with were losers, that doesn't mean that he can't change today. So I want everybody to understand this. You're in charge of your life. You're in charge of your mind. Just if we ended this right now, okay, you guys can all understand that you guys are capable of anything you want. And you just got to do what he said to do. So you can watch this 20 times, okay? And at the end, I'll show you how to get in contact with Sean. If you want to reach out to him, you're welcome to. He has coaching programs. He's super cool. He's a great guy. How old are you now?
34.
He's 34 years old. He's overcome adversity, right? People that come from nothing end up with the most. A lot of my channel are underdogs.
I love it.
Yeah, they're underdogs. I mean, they're people that know,
hungry.
like, yeah, we're hungry as shit. We're not going to let anybody tell us no. So
Yeah.
this is beautiful. But, okay, so keep going here.
Well, that's why they follow you, because that's what you represent. Like Victor, Victor spoke earlier, like, that's my story is, until you're dead, it's never over, man. And I gave up, though. I gave up. From 14 to 24, I did. And the craziest thing is when I got to jail, I was so exhausted from just living a lie and it was draining me, not being the person I wanted to be, and like making excuses and just living as like that fictitious person that other people had to see that I believed I had to be.
You got to recreate yourself.
I did, man. Total recreation. And jail was a beautiful, miraculous opportunity for me. Because when in your life are you going to be able to have nothing but time to think, reflect, analyze self, and work on self?
And I know people that aren't in prison who are in prison. They're in a mental prison.
I wrote my book, Prison of Your Own. I brought you a copy.
That's good.
Prison of
Winning
Your Own.
the war within.
Well, because I came home and all the guys that I went to high school with, even the star football players, they were fat, they were out of shape, they were going through the motions in life, they were unhappy. You could see it in their body language. And I was like, man, I was better off than all these guys my age. I just came from prison. And I thought, what the hell? And I realized they had settled. And they had let that voice, that bitch voice, that doubt and fear inside their mind, lead them to holding back. And so I wrote my book, Prison of Your Own, to inspire people to realize, like, you don't have limitations. You're settling because you've been conditioned or taught by society, like, not to go after more, whatever it is.
If somebody wants to get that book, where do they get it?
On Amazon, Prison of Your Own.
Prison of Your Own. Go to Amazon, Sean Crane, C-R-A-N-E.
Yeah, and so I talk about being in prison, the changes I made on a day-to-day basis, how it shifted my mindset. And just like I had to fight every day, Andy. Here's the crazy thing. I was going through a box of old possessions recently, and I found all my journals from prison. I kept them. And I was reading a passage the other night to my wife, and it was from 2014. And in this journal entry, I was talking about how I had found some special energy, this like miraculous energy inside me I'd never known before. But I wanted to live life to the fullest. I wanted to be my best self. Like, I wanted it because it was all taken away. And in this passage, I wrote how one day I'm going to come back and I'm going to read these words and I'm going to have the life that I dreamt of. I'm going to have it all. And in that moment, I was reading it to my wife and I got choked up because that's what I prayed for every day. A family, opportunity, like all this stuff. So I'm going back and reading these passages from over 10 years ago. Now, a lot of you guys listening think, man, 10 years, that's a long time. Look, the time's going to pass one way or another. In 10 years, do you want to be looking back saying, I'm so grateful I took those steps to change my life? I'm so grateful I stopped making excuses and holding back? Or do you want to be the same or worse off than you are right now because you just couldn't see it and you couldn't believe in it? Like, I had to believe in it because the alternative for me was to sit in a cell and just suffer. And I refused to do that. So every day I had to fight. And I realized that you have to wake up every day ready to fight. Your thoughts, your daily actions, like you can't let a day go by where you're not willing to take all the actions required to feel the way you want to feel and be the person you want to be. And so I've just never stopped, man. And I'm just getting started. That's why I'm here, to be around guys like Andy. Like, I love this energy. I love being around people who just want it all and are not going to make excuses and will do whatever it takes because they speak my language. I feel that energy. I feel that passion.
And we live to help people.
Exactly. And so I want to be a symbol for all the guys watching right now and all the people.
And women.
Everyone,
we say
right?
guys because we all say guys because we're just
a
bunch of
men
dummies.
and women.
But the women watching this too, like, your self-worth, it needs to go through the roof, okay? Because you'll never get the life you want if you don't believe it. And, breaking out of, I think getting that book will be important. Breaking out of the current habits you have right now, right? You changed your habits. You hoped that your life would change, but you really changed your habits. And that's what changed your whole life because you said you started exercising, you said you started reading, you said you started writing. Those are habits.
Yeah, and I never did that stuff ever, and I never did it for multiple days in a row. Something really magical happens when you can compound those daily actions. Like, momentum's real. Now it's just a part of who I am. If I don't work out, read, write, put out positive messages, have conversations like this every day, like, I don't feel the right way. I have to do it. Yeah. So it takes time, but it's like when you dedicate yourself to those things, your clarity, your vision, your mindset, it expands and you start to feel different, man. And that's what I did. Once I found that feeling inside of me, like once I was working out and doing these things every day, I was feeling proud of who I was for the first time in my life. My sole mission every day in prison was just to keep that spark alive. I was so scared that it was going to suddenly vanish and I was going to get out of prison. I was just going to be a loser again like I was. So every day I did whatever it took to keep that energy alive inside of me. And then it just became who I was. It became my identity.
And you started believing in yourself more and more and more. You became a personal trainer. You worked your way up through that. You probably had the courage to start your own coaching program eventually.
Well, COVID forced my hand. So I was in person and then online, half and half. I learned about online coaching. I'm like, I'm not going to be an in-person trainer. This is just a stepping stone. And so I hired a business coach and he was teaching me how to market myself on Facebook. And at this time now I had my wife and we had Scarlett, my baby girl, Mason, my oldest, who's my stepson. And then my wife was pregnant again. So I have a family to provide for. Yeah. And then COVID shut the gyms down and took away all my clients, all my revenue overnight. And I remember I had like $1,700 in my bank account with no revenue coming in, going, what the hell am I going to do? And this is only like 3.5 years ago, And in that moment.
By the way, it's crazy what can happen in 3 years.
Oh, it's life-changing.
If you guys follow me, and a lot of you are subscribed to my channel, you already know my journey. This guy has a similar journey. it's so cool how we're all together and we're talking about what can happen in a short period of time when we all start owning our shit, understanding what our problems are, understanding, that you wanted your family, now you have it. You didn't take it for granted. You kept pushing, you kept wanting more. You kept training, you're getting around the right people. Like, guys, those same habits that he did in jail when he was in a bad place are the same habits that he's still doing today. Today, he's still working out. Today, he's still writing. Today, he's still reading every day. And now you're not in prison, so you can get around the right people.
Yeah.
And he spends his money. I've watched him. He spends his money to get around people that can teach him how to do things he can't currently do. And again, that's 2023.
Yeah, and one of the things I missed the most when I was in prison was being able to have a conversation like this with somebody that like I looked up to, or somebody that like I had the same energy and mentality as. Like, I missed that so much. So for those of you that are not doing whatever it takes to get around people with more success, more experience, like, you get in those rooms, it literally will just expedite your journey. Like, every weekend if you can. And if you don't want to win bad enough. Like, you don't want what you say you want, because that's a cheat code, man.
Yeah, you know what I love what he said? He goes, every weekend if you can. See, a lot of you are going to be like, every weekend. Every day you stay plugged into good stuff. Look, dude, if you eat clean every day, after a year, you're going to be in really good shape. If you eat clean and work out every day, you're going to be in really good shape. But if you eat clean half the time and eat pizza half the time, you're never going to get in any good shape. You're going to stay the same. Yeah. You're going to maintain. Yeah. So, and then if you eat pizza every day, then you're just going to get fat. Everything that we've always talked about has always gone back to fitness. It's so crazy how when you get around people that understand how to really accumulate success and self-worth, which is very important because nobody has success without self-worth, we all go back to fitness. So the biggest paradigm shift that I've learned in anybody's life is fitness. And I know your coaching program provides fitness. And also you talk to people about mental mindset, because you've learned if they're physically in good shape, then they're mentally right, then they'll kill it in business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it gives you like confidence and belief in yourself. If you do a hard workout every day for a year, your subconscious mind remembers all those days where you showed up when you didn't want to. All those days where you pushed through a hard workout and you earned it and you feel good afterwards, right? So that's what creates self-worth. Like, when I got out of prison after 2,000 days, no one could tell me who I was. I had just proven it to myself for 2,000 days.
Nor did you care what they thought about you.
I never cared. I remember when I was incarcerated, the way I was feeling, I realized the guards, they could lock me up forever, but they couldn't take away the feeling that I had, that I was creating. So that's when I took back control of my life and how I felt. And I took responsibility. And so if you're not working out, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's going to affect your mindset. Your confidence isn't going to be what it could be. You're not going to have the same energy. Like when you walk into a room, like when Andy walks into a room, you feel his presence, right? That's something he's cultivated over years of doing the right thing. He knows who he is. So that's what I strive to do every day. And what I teach my students is, like, when they walk into a room or jump on a sales call, do people even notice them?
Yeah,
right.
Want to be remembered.
Can they hear the conviction in your voice? Do they feel your energy? Like, it's a transfer of energy.
Yeah, can they see that you're really someone different?
Yeah, like,
right?
Do they look at you and say, "Man, what's that guy do?" Like,
I'm interested.
I want to look like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people fail to recognize that, and it puts them at a disadvantage.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, listen, guys, this is really important. I'm going to let him finish this out, but I want you guys to know this, that I love these quick little stories. This is real life, right? It's a real life story. I love comebacks. I'm an overcomer. I know he's an overcomer, and I think a lot of you guys are overcomers. Why don't we all make a decision? Because Sean said that he made a decision, and that was the day everything changed. The decisions that he made in the past shaped Sean's future when he entered jail. And then Sean made new decisions, and that shaped his future that was ahead of him. Okay? So we're just going to make some simple decisions right now. Who do you want to become? What does that person look like? How is their behaviors? What kind of habits do they have? Are they good to their family? Do they got a great attitude? Are they happy? Right? Are they good to themselves? Do they talk right? Do they write? Do they read? You know what I mean? Do they pay attention? What are they searching for? Is their heart good no matter what's happened? I want us to make decisions to become this new person today, like Sean said, right? You recreated yourself.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to decide that today, that hearing Sean's story, you guys can create your own story in which one day you'll be telling it to thousands of people, and you'll change them and inspire them. So, Sean, why don't you finish it out with something that you think everybody needs to know?
Well, you summarized it right there, and I think people have this misconception, like, you want this life and you put it in a future date way off in the distance. And what I discovered in jail is your best life can be created right now. Like, you can feel the same emotions and internal state of your best life right now by just being your best self in everything you do. Like, I was in jail refusing to quit, just doing burpees and looking up words in the dictionary. And I would go to sleep at night feeling so damn proud of myself because I wasn't giving up. I was doing whatever I could. And I realized in that moment, like, this is the best I've ever felt. And so you don't need millions of dollars or all this external success to feel what you really want to feel internally. Like, you can experience it now, and then you just never stop. And your results get bigger and bigger and bigger over time.
Yep, it's not about who you are. Jim Rohn always says it's not about who you are, it's about who you're becoming. So, guys, everybody make a decision today who you want to become. You can become it. I've changed my life. You've watched it. Now it's your turn, and if you're continuing to do it, guess what? Know that we're with you. We love you. If they want to go follow you on Instagram, how do they find you?
Sean M. Crane on Instagram.
Sean M. C-R-A-N-E on Instagram.
S-E-A-N.
S-E-A-N. That's right. No S-H-A-W-N.
We gotta spell it the right way.
S-E-A-N.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Hey, guys, we love you. Have a blessed day. Kill it. Crush it. And, Sean, we appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, Andy.
Okay. Love you, man. See you guys soon.